It goes without saying that approximately about 100 years ago, we put in this thing called the aqueduct that actually changed the way we do business and how we live here in Southern California, from LA to the San Fernando Valley and even the Santa Clarita Valley. And with that, though, comes a lot of responsibility and a lot of management as far as how water is dispersed, to whom, and also how it is conserved, and also what the quality of the water is. I am happy to have the general manager of Castaic Lake Water Agency, Dan Masnada, here this morning to talk about a few issues, some hot button issues, right, Dan?
Yes, sir.
A little bit about, maybe you've seen the headlines, maybe you've heard it on the news or something about the chloride issue. Some people are just kind of let that go in and out of their minds. Some people are not quite as tuned into what's going on. So just give me a little brief overview of when we talk about the chloride issue, what we're talking about.
Chloride has to do with chlorides that come out of the wastewater effluent, the treated wastewater effluent that's discharged of the Santa Clara River. A number of years ago, the Regional Water Quality Control Board set a regulation in place that the chlorides should not exceed 100 milligrams per liter in the future moving forward. And the sanitation district, not the Castaic Lake Water Agency, but the sanitation district is the utility that's in charge of effecting the reduction in the chlorides.
Right. And so with that, though, they are the ones that are kind of in charge of it, but they also task the local water agencies to kind of figure out what to do. Is that right?
Well, not really. The Castaic Lake Water Agency's gotten involved because of its particular expertise in the quality of the state water supply. That's where the higher levels of chlorides come from during dry years or dry periods. During what we call normal weather years or wet weather years, the level of chlorides in the imported water supply that constitutes half of the water supply that's delivered to residents and businesses in the valley is about the same as groundwater. But in dry years, it can go higher.
Right, because it actually it leaches upwards and heads toward the surface, right?
Actually, it's influenced because the imported water supply or the state project supply comes through the delta. It's influenced by tides in the delta and actually seawater as that water moves through the delta before it's pumped down the canal to us.
Now, we already have things in place such as many years back, the banning of salt water softening systems. What else are we doing to try and reduce the chloride levels?
Well, the sanitation district has a number of other mechanisms in place, but the principal one, because it's the most cost-effective approach to treat the highest concentration and the smallest volume, and that was the chlorides or the salts that were being discharged by automatic regenerating water softeners, not the kind that you would rent from, say, Rain or Culligan.
Right. So on that, though, when we talk about the hot button issue, we've seen it being discussed like in city council meetings. We see it also in forums, whether it's Facebook or sometimes letters to the editor and things. What is the big issue that has some people really concerned about the chloride issue as far as that goes?
Well, the big issue is, first of all, the sanitation district has identified 4 alternatives to help deal with the issue with reducing the chlorides down to 100 milligrams per liter, or there is one alternative that the agency's supporting that with the regional board's cooperation would only require the chlorides to be reduced to 117 milligrams per liter in wet years and 130 in dry years. But anyway, 3 of those alternatives involve reverse osmosis, which is essentially desalination. The other alternative, which the agency's supporting, involves using dilution water during dry years, which is groundwater from the area that has low chlorides that would effectively dilute the effluent down to the 117 milligrams per liter. And then there's a second phase, if it's necessary, and the agency and the sanitation district don't believe it would be necessary, would involve the construction of a smaller RO plant if the first phase is unsuccessful. But we believe first phase will be the only part of alternative 4 that will be necessary.
And is it something that's more cost effective than the other alternatives?
Yes.
Okay.
Alternative 4, phase 1, as the sanitation district describes it, is the most cost effective. It's the most environmentally sensitive. It doesn't result in brine discharge that would have to be disposed of, whether it's through deep wells or trucking or piping it to a location where it can be disposed of into the ocean.
So we're talking about something that, as far as the potential for rates and things like that, keeping it as low as possible, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's the objective. Now, there are those that feel, well, wait a minute, we believe the TMDL, the total maximum daily load of chloride, has been set too low by the regional board, so they're advocating for pursuing litigation or additional studies or even legislation. However, the sanitation district tried that for better part of or more than 10 years unsuccessfully, and their legal counsel has concluded that it's not worth fighting the battle anymore and potentially facing fines.
Right.
It's a very high risk, potentially high reward, but very minimal, probably literally no chance of success, other than spending money to go through that effort and then still having to comply.
And then coming back around, if we don't do anything, what is it that high chlorides or a higher chloride content does to the water or does to the environment? Is there some sort of a negative effect on it?
Well, that's really what's caused some of the controversies, because there were studies that were done that indicated that it would affect the output or production of certain salt-sensitive crops, strawberries, avocados, and this is downstream in Ventura County, and even some of the flowers that are grown in Ventura County. That's not referred to as often. And there's been a controversy as to whether that chloride standard is overly restrictive in that regard. However, there was a study done. Once again, the sanitation district did attempt to get the chloride level raised, but the regional board concluded the 100 milligrams per liter was what was appropriate for those salt-sensitive crops. And then also another factor that the regional board takes into consideration is what the historical level of chlorides has been in the water before man set foot in the area. And in our area, it was on the order of 100 milligrams per liter.
I see. So that is it's good information to know. Where can they find out more information about this issue or what you're doing about it?
The sanitation district has, if you go to its website, it has a link to the EIR that it prepared and the comments and the responses to comments. Now, those comments and the responses to comments were almost 700 pages long, and that's
Wow.
on top of the EIR itself.
Right.
So there's a lot there to read.
Right. Exactly. Dan Masnada, General Manager of Castaic Lake Water Agency. Very informative and insightful about kind of a hot button issue here in Santa Clarita Valley. Thank you so much for coming out and talking. Very enlightening.
Thank you, George.
So now you can go back out and make the water clean for the rest of us. Thanks for stopping by.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Time is 9:17. We will have traffic after this.